Hi, my name's Paula and I'm from Chic Emporium, and today we're going to do a video on how to paint with chalk paint on material. My daughter was given this bag, and although it's quite a nice bag, it's a bit of a non-girly colour, so we thought we'd girlify it up and use this amazing product, Frenchic, to do just that. So we've chosen some colours and we're going to use purple grey and ballerina pink, and maybe a stencil on the top afterwards. We might use some of these Frenchic powders, so I'll show you how to do that, and we've chosen a stencil that we're quite keen on putting here. So the first thing that we're going to do, I've got a little pot of water, as you can see, and I've put squash quantities of water in the bottom, and I'm going to transfer with my brush amounts of paint into it, because we need to water the paint down when we're putting it on fabric. It shouldn't be completely concentrated, so I'm going to put quite a bit of paint because it's going to take quite a lot of paint. But this is the secret. You might need an extra coat or an extra layer than you would if you were normally painting, but patience is a virtue and all that. Not my forte, if I'm honest. So I'm adding and adding. Nearly there. So we've kind of made a cup of squash, with the water being the squash and what would normally be the water being the paint. Okay. I'm going to mix it all up carefully. Now sometimes people spray the material, particularly if it's a velvet-y type material, with water to dampen it first, but because this is a kind of leatherette material, and because I've already mixed quite a bit of water in this, I'm not going to need to do that. This will be absolutely fine. Obviously this isn't the easiest shape to be painting as fabric, because there's lots of nooks and crannies, so I'm going to have to dry it off in sections all the time. But there we are, that's my really quite watery paint, but it's going to cover this fabric just lovely. So all you do is start painting. I'm not going to worry too much about the metal at the moment. I'm going to just paint over it, because that will probably be the area I Frenchine afterwards. The Frenchine will happily go on it. There's no point trying to be careful. So as you can see, going on absolutely lovely. So I'll come back to you when I've got a whole layer on. Right, so we finished one layer all over. It was a bit fiddly, to be honest. It was a two-man job, because we had to paint the straps and I was holding it while my daughter was blow drying it. The hairdryer is amazing because it just dries it so quickly. So we've given it a layer everywhere. It still looks quite wishy-washy, as you can see, but it's all dry. Some areas look better covered than others, but that's fine. That's how it should look. So now the magic trick is to use clear wax. So I've got a buffing rag. Now this is what stops the fabric that you're painting on from going hard and crusty, as you would imagine painting fabric would. So what I'm going to do is rub a really generous area. I don't know if the camera can show what I'm doing. I've got bits of fluff coming off my rag. But rub it in really generously into all the nooks and crannies. Then while the wax is still soft, I will paint another layer over the top. Okay, so I'm not going to wait for the wax to go hard. I'm going to paint straight away. So first of all, I have to go around the whole bag in the same way, getting the wax on. So I'll pop back in. Right, I've completely waxed the bag. I don't know if you can see a bit of a shininess about it. It feels quite slimy at the moment. It's going to be fine, but before it settles, as I said before, I'm going to now carry on and paint the second coat with the same watered down paint that I used before. Okay. So, colour will gradually get more and more solid with each layer. So I don't know how many layers we're going to need with this one. The last one I did was with Anguilla and I needed 4. But this seems to be going on quite well, so we might not need as many.
Oh, what? 1, 2, 3, 4.
We've now finished a second coat on this bag and it's looking pretty amazing actually. In fact, I'm fairly convinced it doesn't need a third or a fourth coat. I might do a few touch-ups from looking around it, but it's come up really lovely. I'm really pleased with it. Before I put the next coat of wax on, I'm going to put the stencil in place. We've chosen this lovely French stencil that I've got because we're kind of having a French theme going on. I've found some decoupage napkins that we thought we might use on the pockets, and fortunately I'm really lucky because I work in a craft centre and we have a lovely lady that works here also that has a beautiful shop, so we just rushed over there to find some bling to bling up our bag to add to the whole French theme. So don't you think that's just gorgeous? So it's going to look lovely when we're done. So for the stenciling I use my forever favourite tool, the Frenchic stencil brush, because it's completely flat at the end, so it's brilliant for stenciling. Obviously that's what it's designed for, but when we stencil we don't want it to bleed and we don't want it to go underneath, and it's how we do that is make sure that when we are stippling we're just going up and down. We're not going that way or round and about, we're just going up and down. We also need to make sure when we do this that the paint is as thick as possible, so we don't want runny watery paint that will just run underneath. So less is more, really little bit on the brush, again because we don't want it bleeding. So we're going to have a go. Obviously this isn't the easiest thing to stencil because it's not on a flat surface, so I'm going to hold it in place round the area that I'm stenciling to try to maximise the success of it. I've got grey everywhere all over my fingers. This isn't a clean job by any means. So let's just see. I do find that the Frenchic chalk paint, neat as it is, not diluted, is actually a really good consistency for stenciling. So when I talk about making sure it's thick, I don't mean doing anything special to it, just use it as it is. Gorgeous colour. Proper girly. You'll notice the distinct lack of chalky at the moment. That's because Daddy's arrived and Daddy's far more interesting than me painting. So he's off entertaining himself with Daddy. I'm sure he'll be back. So as you can see, as we're going along, I'm using my fingers to push down and hold the stencil in place. If you're doing this on a flat surface, a flat bit of furniture, etc., you don't need to do this, but because this is all a bit lumps and bumps here, I think it will help. Back to the first section. Now quite often I would do a second coat doing this, but because of the movement I think I really risk smudging it, not putting it back down in the right place, so I should probably stick with one for this, and if it's a little bit more faded than normal, I'll just add that to the French je ne sais quoi. The last bit. Smudge there, but I can live with that. I can probably touch that up with a bit of paint. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Right, I'll pop back in here. Right, I've just dried off my stenciling and I'm going to give a second coat of wax to protect it and keep it soft before we move on to the decoupage stage. Okay. Right, I've given it a good wax and I've touched up in a few areas, so it's sort of had 2.5 coats, and I've run into this problem on the side. Some of it got a bit flaky. I've managed to get it all over myself. It feels still very soft, but some of it will come off. I quickly put another layer of wax in to seal it, but that hasn't happened to me before, and I've done chairs and all sorts, but it has happened on this, and I'm perhaps thinking it might be to do with it being quite an old bag and it's had quite a lot of usage, so the outside was a bit flaky. Anyway, as always, adapt and move on. We've got this gorgeous napkin, which has got a bit of a Frenchy feel about it, which will go perfectly with the stencil that we've put on. So we're going to use this area, we thought, to put some decoupage down, which will hide it, hopefully, and that might solve the problem. So what I'm going to do, it's a normal napkin. I think these were bought in Dunelm. I'm going to tear it into sections. Some of these napkins are a bit tricky to get apart, especially around the edge where they're punctured and sealed. You can still use that bit when you decoupage it, it just dissolves into it, but they are quite difficult to separate. So we need to get the back layer off, and there should be one more, and you often look at it and think, no, there can't be, but there is, I promise you. There it is, you've got to fiddle around. This whole process isn't one for someone that's in a rush, really. So now I'm left with a very fragile bit. I think it will blend really nicely into what I've got here. So I'm going to tear it again, roughly down the shape that I want. There we go. And I'm gonna, you can easily, the good thing about this is that you can easily patch, so there's a bit there missing, but I can easily put another bit on there afterwards. So I'm going to use finishing coat. Pour a little bit in a pot. Use a little brush. I'm not going to put finishing coat onto the napkin because it's way too fragile and it will just dissolve. So I'm going to brush it, and yeah, I know we've got wax on there too, but that's okay. So I'm going to just brush it all over the area I want to stick it. Okay, it's quite wet now. So let's put this over it. Okay. As is quite often with my projects, it's a sort of work in progress. I wasn't sure where it was going on. We just started off with a bag and 2 colours, and now we've got bling and we've got napkins and decoupage going on as well, so we'll just have to see what happens next. Okay, I shall carry on decoupaging this section and repeat the other side so it matches, and we might add some more elsewhere as well once I've seen what that looks like. Okay, we'll put back in a bit. Well, in honesty, I've had quite a lot of problems with this bag and the painting of it, and it's never happened to me before, but it has happened here, so I'm going to show you what's happened and kind of how I've gone about resolving it. I showed you before the flaking-y bit that was going on the sides, and I've managed to stick the napkins that we were using with various layers of coats of finishing coat, more, and it still needs more now. I can feel it going a bit more papery as it's drying. So we had another area here that started cracking, so again we put this over it, and then it was just cracking in lots of places. So what I've ended up doing, I say this hasn't happened to me before, and it must only be the material or the oldness of the bag, but what I did was put 2 coats of finishing coat on it completely, drying it in between, and then painted again, and then finishing coated on the top again to protect it. After all, it's going to be outside, so it's probably good to have a waterproof coat. So it's looking a lot better than it was, and I probably still need to do a bit more work on it. I had to do the same on the pockets that started cracking. It's had paint, it's had 2 layers of finishing coat and now paint, so I've just got to put more finishing coat on to seal it. Now you're probably finishing coat everywhere to just properly seal it in before we move on to the blinging section. So that's where we're at. I'll keep going and I'll come back to you when we get to something. Right, I have now sealed all of the bag with a layer of finishing coat. In some of the more prominent areas I've put more than 1 layer, so it's looking a bit shiny, a bit leathery. It looks a lot better than it did. So we've decided that we're going to bling this up a bit more with some Frenchic. So I've made this lovely mixture, which is gold Frenchic, silver Frenchic, and a tiny bit of cool copper Frenchic, and I've mixed it up with the finishing coat so that it's a kind of paint consistency, and then I'm simply going to paint my pocket. So it goes on just like paint, but because it's got the finishing coat already mixed into it, it won't need to be protected over the top. So we're going to do this pocket, and do this pocket as well. Hello, Chalky. Want to join us at last? And then I'm going to.
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Been a bit of a long day with this bag, in honesty, but we finally got there. We've blinged all the brass knuckles, the I don't know what you call them, beading studs. We matched this and this, so it all matches in, and then we've put our bling, tied all our bling to it in different places. So I think it's come out really well. I'm pleased with the overall product, even though it took a lot longer than I'd anticipated, and I had the problems with the painting, the fabric today that I haven't had before. It's not perfect, there's still some areas that I think could do with perhaps some more finishing coat on, but it's really pretty good, and it's certainly a much nicer bag than it was this morning when we started. So I hope that you enjoyed the process and learnt something. We'll have a go at it yourself. Thank you for your support. Please follow my page and like it. You'll find it on www.facebook.com/the Emporium Furniture, which will take you straight to Chic Emporium. Thank you so much. Until next time.